to Dependisplaning, the podcast, your one-stop shop for all military-related things, true crime, and, It is just me, Jen. Today, Veronica is on vacation. So it's just going to be me for a couple episodes. A little bit different than what we usually do. We'll get back into our true crime once she gets back. And we'll get that back and rolling. But for now, we're going to have a couple episodes with some interviews with a few people of different things. And it's going to be awesome and you're going to love it. Because I love it. And it's exciting. So, stay tuned. Don't forget to rate and subscribe wherever you are listening from, whatever your listening platform is. Share with all your friends and family because we got really good information and we're just really fun to listen to, obviously. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you a military spouse. Her name is Morgan, and she has some exciting things to share with us today. Hi, Morgan.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Nervous.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, I know, it's been a while since I've been podcasting, so I'm like rusty.
I've never been on a podcast before, so this is all brand new to me.
It's good. It's going to be fine. It's like we're both brand new at it again. It's fine. So Morgan, what will we be discussing with you today?
So today we're going to talk about my crazy, ridiculous marriage that happened 2 years ago. It was a double proxy marriage in the state of Montana. So neither one of my husband...
Neither one of your husbands?
So my husband or I were not at our own wedding ceremony. So it's pretty unique, and I'm excited to dive into that.
Crazy. If some of you might remember episode 92, I talked about marriage by proxy. So now I have live in the flesh somebody who actually has gone through and has done a double marriage by proxy. So, yeah. Morgan, just dive on in. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So a proxy marriage means that somebody stands in for you at your own wedding. Double proxy meaning that both people are absent and both people have a proxy standing in. So it's only legal in the state of Montana for residents or for anybody in the armed forces, active duty, regardless of their residency. So it is just this wild thing, because marriage is typically, it's about being present with each other. So to even think that it's legal without you being there is like, how is that even legal?
Right, because the marriage license and the signing of everything and just, Yeah,
so we didn't even sign our own marriage license, actually. So that's done by the proxy and everything. Yeah.
That's crazy. So you just have random people's signatures on your marriage license?
Actually, it's this couple. Her name is April, and his name is Chris Cohen. They're a couple who live in the state of Montana, and they run this business. It's called Proxy Marriage. You can find their website, proxymarriage.com, or if you Google it, it's the first one that comes up. Mm-hmm. And they stand in together for each, like the wife and the husband, and they sign it, so...
Apologies for the random kid noises in the background, but you guys know this happens to us all the time, so sorry about that, Morgan. Keep going.
Oh, that's okay. So they actually have a whole staff. I'm on their website right now looking at it, and it says that April is the owner and operator and the proxy for the bride. Chris Cohen is the co-owner and the proxy for the groom, and then they have two ministers on their staff that they're the ones who do the ceremony with them, and then the county that this takes place in is Flathead County in the state of Montana, which I've never been to. That's where I'm married, but I've never stepped a single foot in the state of Montana.
Well, that's somewhere you'll have to go.
I know. Yeah.
When you're back in the States.
Malachi, my husband Malachi and I have talked about how we want to spend an anniversary there, hopefully in the future, just to see where it all started, even though we've never been. Yeah.
That's so cute. What a good idea. Yeah. Well, that's adorable.
Yeah. I'd love to make it to Montana. Montana's beautiful in all the pictures you see online, so yes. I don't think it would be a bad.
My lovely host Veronica was stationed in Montana for, I think she was only there for 3 years. A lucky duck again, got overseas after that. But that's how I met her, because they came to England. but they were in Montana before, and she said it was absolutely gorgeous. So you would have a good time there. Plenty to do. Very cool. Okay, so what got you into, considering proxy marriage? Like, where did this come from?
Okay, so this is a long and complicated story, I guess, so bear with me as I try to tell it all in all of its glory. So it all started, I was fresh out of high school. And that same year, my now husband Malachi, had just wrapped up his second year of college, and he wasn't doing very well in the situations he was in, and he decided to leave with his younger brother, who had also just graduated high school, and join the Air Force. And I was really scared about that originally, but we went in with the plan that he was going to graduate BMT. He went in open general, so he didn't even know what job he was going to be doing at the time. But we had said that we can do long distance. It's going to be fine. He'll get stationed stateside somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The time zone won't be that bad. We'll be able to fly back and forth to see each other. And so he went, and I went to college. I had a wonderful time at college. I was studying dance and business. Dance and accounting, actually. I changed it. Dance and accounting at Muhlenberg College in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And he went off to Texas. It was the first week of my second semester. He graduated in January. BMT, he found out that he was going to be a contracting. That's a job he got chosen. I don't know.
They just assigned him.
Yes,
that
in the middle of basic training. And so...
And this was in 2020, right? When you graduated?
So I graduated high school in 2019, so he left for BMT November 2019 and graduated the very beginning of 2020. Mm-hmm. So back then, the world was all good and well, and there was no giant pandemic.
Not yet.
So that's important to keep in mind. He still we were still on track. I flew down to San Antonio to see him graduate, and that was amazing. That's truly a phenomenal ceremony, and if anybody who has seen that ceremony or any sort of basic training graduation ceremony knows that it's just it gives you goosebumps. It's just so amazing to see, and it made me really proud that he was in the military, even though at first I was so like, what are you doing? Like, oh my gosh, like our lives are gonna be so different. And then I went back to school. He went on to tech school. He stayed in San Antonio. He didn't have to leave for tech school. And then about halfway through mid-February, he calls me up. I'm sitting in the dining hall of my college. We had like a balcony up above, and I'm sitting there with my one really good friend. She was in the wedding, actually. And he called me, and he's like, guess what? I found out where I'm going. I know where I'm going now. And I was like, where? Like, expecting like any of the East Coast bases that he put on. That's where he really wanted to go. Mm-hmm. He's like, Guam. What? I was like, I remember I threw I slammed my hand down on the table, and it made like this great big noise, and everybody in the dining hall like looked up at me, and I looked at my friend, and I was like, Guam? What is Guam? They had never heard of Guam before. Now I know it's this beautiful little island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, but I was like shocked at first. It was just like an initial like, oh my gosh, like this is way different than anything that we had pictured our lives to look like. Moving into any of this military lifestyle, and I was just I wasn't even 19 years old yet. I was still 18 when all of this happened. I was such a baby. And so, we talked about his options. Originally, when he went to tech school, he was like, oh, it'll be fine. Like, if I do get overseas, I'll just switch with someone in my class, and it won't be a big deal. And so that was my first question. I was like, who are you switching with? Where's everybody else going? Like, anybody going to Virginia? Yeah. That would be great.
Anywhere that you can switch that's not somewhere I've never heard of before in my entire life.
And of course, that was not, well, I don't know if it was an option, but he was the only one in his tech school class to go overseas. And so everybody was like oohing and awing, Guam, oh my gosh, that sounds so nice. Guam is Guam is beautiful, you know, the weather's always nice, and the beaches are beautiful, and...
When you always say, like, when will you ever go to Guam?
Right, and so everybody in his class was, like, ready for him to, like, trade, and I think that made him be like, ooh, you know, I'm not gonna give this up. Like, it's, like, this really special thing that I have, and so...
Yeah.
It was pretty early on that he was, like, pretty dead set on going anyway, even though I was like, let's switch. Once he found out he was going to Guam, and everybody else wanted that duty station, he really, really wanted to keep it as his own and didn't want to give it up and didn't want to trade away. And so, you know, pretty instantly we started talking about, like, what that would look like for our relationship. And since I was on the East Coast, it was a 14-hour time difference.
Yeah.
It's 8,000. It's like 7,840 something miles, I think.
That's insane.
Is what the distance is. 3 plane rides. We've now figured out it's about 30 hours from door to door. So, you know, that sort of long distance relationship looks significantly differently than a, you know, just states away, you know. Yeah. You know, even being states away sucks, but to be a whole country and a whole ocean apart from each other, that didn't really look ideal to us. And so this is like mid-February time range is when this happened. And so, of course, like, we started like, oh, like, what if we get married? You know, like, I'm still 18 at the time. I turned 19 in March. And he would have been 20. And so, you know, we're just little babies. Like, how can we get married and move? Like, how could I, you know, you're moving 8,000 miles away regardless, you know, but, like, how could I pick up my whole life and do that? Like, that's not really feasible, is it? And I was loving school at the time. I was doing really well academically and socially, and, you know, it was a really tough choice to make, but it was just, like, it was just chit-chat at that point, and then done, spring break rolled around, and I, like, told my mom what was going on, and, like, filled other family members in, and everyone's really excited for him, of course, and then COVID-19 takes over the whole world, and that just drastically changed everything pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, my spring break happened, and then I went back to school for, like, 2 days, and then they decided to send us all home for, everything was going to be online. That semester, I was taking 4 dance classes, unfortunately, and then, like, an accounting class or something, I think. So everything was everything was in the studio, and I went from dancing in a huge, beautiful studio to my 5x7 rug in my bedroom, where when I lifted my hands, I hit my ceiling fan.
Okay, so you dance was at home,
right?
You guys couldn't even be together at all,
right? So, also originally, I forgot this. We had talked about him, because he was going to take leave and rap on his way before going to Guam. So there was the potential to get married in Pennsylvania, like, at least at a courthouse, with our families and stuff before he headed all the way to Guam. But since COVID hit, he was told that nobody is taking leave. They just leave straight from San Antonio to their duty station. So that also changed things pretty significantly and I had not, like, talked to my mom or dad about, like, getting married, like, pretty seriously at that point, but it changed our conversations with each other, like, oh, this is not going to be as easy as we originally thought it would be. And so, being at home, I had a twin sister. It was our first time away from each other, so, like, everybody came back to the house after being away for almost a year. And so it was just like, I had just had this, like, newfound freedom of being in college and being independent, and I had lost that so quickly, and I was back, and I love my parents dearly. Mom and Dad, if you're listening to this, it's not that I don't love you, it's just that it was like, wow, like, this is not what I thought college was going to be like, and it didn't look like it was going to get any better anytime soon. And I remember meeting with my advisor at college, and she was my dance professor as well, and I was worried about being able to dance here on the island and continuing school and whatnot. She kind of told me that, like, if there's a will, there's a way, and she actually knew one of her best friends from grad school had danced on the island professionally, and so that made it sound a little better. Of course, that didn't work out for me here because the show she was in shut down because of COVID.
Yeah.
But it, like, there was just, like, some promise in that, holy cow, like, this one professor knew somebody who knows anybody who danced professionally in Guam. Like,
who knew anyone that even knew
right.
where Guam was or what it was
right.
or anything. And
so that was kind of like the first sign of, like, okay, this will change my life in ways I don't even know or expect to yet, but I think maybe we should try it. And then I talked to my mom, and Malachi arrived to the island in the middle of May. So between that March and May time frame, we were kind of in, like, this limbo of, like, what is even happening in the world and what's going to happen. We didn't really know. So when he finally got to the island and checked into the office and stuff, it took quite a while because he had to quarantine once he got to the island and stuff, but he got here and he was like, I have this woman back in Pennsylvania, we think we want to get married, like, what are the options? And somebody recommended, they were like, oh, check out Double Proxy, and that was, like, the first time that we had heard of it. And so I, like, instant Google Double Proxy, and he's like, well, she said that it's, like, you guys can get married without being at your own wedding. I was like, that is not legal. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, there's no way that's legal. Like, how can that even, when you think about it, how could that even be? How can you get married without being at your own wedding?
Right.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, how can you not be there?
Right.
And it still be perfectly fine.
Yeah, and so I Googled right away, and of course, the proxy marriage pops up right on Google, and so I have my old emails pulled up, and so I sent an email on May 19th. That was my first, I was just sending her an email like, hey, this is our situation, like, can you send me some more information about what the heck a double proxy marriage is, like, what is it? And so she sent me an email with all the paperwork that needed to be completed and the cost, and so we each needed to sign an affidavit that needed to be signed in front of a notary. Malachi was already on Guam, so he actually did his online, which was pretty nifty. My mom's boss is she's a notary as well, so I just went to my mom's boss to have that signed.
Because sometimes that's hard, honestly, notary, because who the heck is a notary anymore besides someone, like, at the legal office?
Right, yeah.
You don't even know.
So the affidavits pretty much said that it is my intention to enter into a marriage in the state of Montana, and it is my intention and consent that the marriage will be performed without my personal appearance, and that a proxy will stand in. Malachi had to check that he was an active duty military service member and that I was the fiancé, which, fun fact, I never got a proposal, but that's okay. And then we had to write the full name of who we intended to marry, and that we were a citizen of the United States, and it's just a standard, like, yes, we actually want to go through with this. This is actually the person I want to marry, and then we had to sign in front of a notary. And we both had to fill that out. And then we also had to sign a attorney-client engagement agreement. That was just for the attorney in Montana. We had to send them our information, of course, and then copies of IDs. There was, like, a contract for this business as well that we had to submit when we paid. It cost $600 to get married by proxy. It's probably more than that. So this is 2020, $600 in 2020, which is kind of steep if you know anything about marriage licenses. When I looked it up for Pennsylvania, it was only like
marriage licenses are not expensive.
No, they're not that expensive. Yeah.
So you're paying for the labor.
Yeah.
The labor of being done.
Right.
You're not having to be there.
So anyway, I received all this information on May 19th, is what she sent over. So that's what it takes to get married by double proxy. And then we spent the next 2 weeks getting talking to our families to make sure that everyone was on board.
Getting everybody on the same page and being like, hey, this is what's gonna happen.
I'll have to say my dad was the most shocked. I kept him in the dark way more than my mom. I was really worried he wouldn't approve. But it was good. And then on the 28th, I sent all the paper over, and then we confirmed everything on May 29th. That was a Friday, and then I received an email on June 2nd. That was the following Tuesday, that we had been married on the 1st.
Woo!
So, on that next Monday. So we confirmed everything on Friday and was married on Monday. And it all happened, like, within a 2-week time period I was just looking at, so.
Yeah.
to be married online. And
That's crazy.
and a lot of people ask, like, oh, so like, did you Zoom in? Like, were you on Zoom? No, I literally sent the emails on Friday, and then Tuesday night I received an email that we had been married the previous day. Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy, because you would think, especially going like virtual, that they would at least be like, oh, hey, this is your wedding date and time. Here's the Zoom, and you can watch. Because I think before, when I was looking at all this stuff previously, that you could watch your own marriage, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. But there are a few different companies, I think, in Montana that do this, so that may be an option. But the one that we chose, and I think another reason why it went so quickly was because of COVID. They had stopped like the mail, like we didn't necessarily need to mail in some of I think originally the affidavit had to like have the original signature, so you'd have to send that in the mail. Yeah. But because of COVID, it went all digital. Which was nice, yeah.
That is really nice, too, especially because being, at least one of you being somewhere so far away that it'll take forever to send in snail mail.
Right, so. And I would say that, like, with the time zone that because Malachi was on Guam when this was happening, and I was in Pennsylvania, so it was like a 14 or 15 hour time difference.
Yeah.
And so, like, just, like, it would take a day for him to go into the office and, like, talk to his, like, first sergeant, and then when I woke up, he would have to report that back to me, and then I would talk, and then by the time I had an answer for him, he would be out of work, and he'd have to wait till the next day. So it took time with, like, how different the time. Thankfully, it was just about opposite, so, like, it kind of worked out that when I was waking up, he was, like, done for the day, so we could talk, and...
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was tricky, the time zone.
It's weird. Yeah. So that's crazy. So your official marriage license marriage date is June 1st.
Yeah. It's June 1st, and it does not have my signature on it.
That's so funny. Mm-hmm. Which is just crazy that you think, like, how can that even be possible? But yeah, I mean, obviously anyone in Montana can do it, and then anyone active duty military.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's an exciting story, and
the
other thing I wanted to say is that we didn't get to pick our date, so like it just kind of June 1st is a good day, I think. But at the halfway point of the year, but just there was just a lot of like, this is what we wanted to do, so we had to deal with what it was.
Yeah, so, I think that's funny. The mindset you have to have is when you are getting yourself into something like this too. You just have to be like very open to whatever is available with the company you're going to go with, because I mean you're wanting to get it done, and they obviously know you want to get it done quickly, and you have to do it this way. And so if you have a date set in mind, unless that company is willing to work with you on that date, just kind of go with the flow. Yeah, it is. And I think in our situation, we just wanted to be married. The intention, because we had talked about, like, because what were our other options at that point? The whole world is shut down. Yeah. He was not allowed to take leave to come home. Yeah. If I guess I could have come to Guam, but like at the current time, there was a mandatory 2-week quarantine policy in a government facility. And then on top of that, I wouldn't be able to get onto base because like the bases were shut down at that point. And, and you couldn't get a visitor pass.
Right, and that means I would have had to like stay at a hotel, which I was 19 years old at the time. I turned 19 in March, so I had just turned 19. I didn't have any kind of money to like stay in a hotel until not just until we were married, but until like the military processed the marriage, and we actually got a house on base. Yeah. And so this really, I don't want to say it was our only option, because if there's a will, there's a way to get something done. But,
right. This was just the best option.
It seemed like the best option for us in this situation. And then after we got married, we tried to do what we could to get the military to pay for my flight, which did not work out, unfortunately.
So tell us about, because Malachi was already here. Right. So he's, obviously, because he's military, so he's here. And when you are a dependent and you're going overseas, you are something what they call command sponsored. Right. But you got married after he got here, so what does that look like?
So a lot of this process was actually pretty messy, which it makes sense being 19 and 20 years old, and on top of trying to figure out how to be married. We're trying to figure out how to move me 8,000 miles away, and then
in the middle,
and then get into the
start of COVID
right.
too,
and
the
then,
craziness.
Get me enrolled in everything that I needed to be enrolled in for the military. It was
Yeah.
chaos. So we first started. Malachi, of course, was quickly able to get me like enrolled in DEERS and stuff. That was all taken care of by his first shirt or whoever, and I don't even know, in the office. You know, someone took good care of him throughout this whole process in the office, and I am really thankful for that. And then once I was in DEERS, all I needed to do was go to like the closest military base to me to get my ID. That was a really complicated process because the closest military installation was like 3 hours away from me. Some military college, Army military college in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. It wasn't very close, and it's not a huge military base. It actually looked like townhomes and stuff when we drove on base. But thankfully, my older sister's husband was in the Army for a really long time, so like that's where they would go to get like their IDs and stuff figured out. And, like, they'd been to the commissary there and stuff. So I went with her, and we took a road trip down, and she was able to like sponsor me onto base to get my ID. And then once I was there, there was 2 guys who like looked me up on DEERS, and like I explained this whole story that I just told you about how we got married, and they were like, "Huh, interesting."
Like, wow, okay.
But it was very easy for them to like pull me up on DEERS once they found me, and it was very easy. And then once I had an ID, things got a little easier. Mm-hmm. We were hoping, like, the command sponsorship took the longest. I think it took until August to get that fully approved. Malachi had to go through a lot of steps. And I don't know exactly what those are. I wish he was here to talk about like the military side of it. But I was not really involved with that. So, but like his first shirt was definitely involved in getting some of those steps done. And At the time, I remember I was like, "Oh my god, I need to meet this woman, and I need to thank her. I need to give her everything I own," because she played a big part in all of that. And so that got approved in August, and we were hoping that like the military, you know, I'm a military dependent, you know, I should be able to be on the military flight. That's the attitude I had.
Right. Well, you like hoping, like, you know, okay, I'm in this now,
So unfortunately, because they don't amend his orders. I'm only command sponsored, so I will not be on any orders until we leave Guam.
Yeah.
Now.
Okay.
So that means no military flight. And that also meant no Space A at the time, because Space A was closed down because of COVID. So that was not an option either, unfortunately. So we bit the bullet, and I bought a really expensive plane ticket. It cost, I don't know, $1,500 to get one way from Philadelphia to Guam. So that's unfortunate. You know, that was a pretty large expense, and I have to shout out to my parents for that, because my parents, if I did not have my parents' support in that step, I would not have been able to do it. And they helped significantly throughout the entire process. But financially, especially, they really helped to set Malachi and I up. So love you, Mom and Dad. And then, so once I bought that ticket, like as soon as I found out that I was like I was a part of, you know, the command sponsorship, like I was able to be on Guam, and it was actually legal, and I would be allowed to get on base, you know. Mm-hmm. But Malachi'd still not, like, he was still living in the dorms here on base, and so I was like, I bought a ticket not knowing if I would even have a place to stay, really, and so he figured that out. He got the house the day before I arrived from housing.
That's good.
Yeah, so, and he was actually able to buy, a bed and a mattress and a dining room table and a dresser before I arrived. So he had all this, and he had a queen size mattress and bed in his dorm room, waiting for the house, waiting for me to arrive. And he was able to get into the house and set it up before I came. And then the worst part of this all is that I still had to quarantine, of course, since that was Guam law at the time. I had to mandatory 2-week quarantine, isolated quarantine, and so I had been married for months and months and months and not able to see my husband this whole time. I fly 8,000 miles across a whole country and a whole ocean, and what do I have to do? Wait another 2 weeks.
2 more weeks.
Yeah. So I moved into the house all by myself. This, you know, empty base house with yellow walls and ugly carpet and spend 2 weeks. And
hey, your carpet was pretty good, though.
Yeah.
You had good carpet.
He would bring me meals from the DFAC because I didn't have groceries. And,
and you can't go anywhere, so you're expected to, like,
he would bring me
crazy.
food from the DFAC, and we would slide open the door. So he would sit out on the patio, and I would sit in the dining room.
Don't let your COVID out.
With the screen, and we would just talk to each other. And it was kind of
that's
sad.
so
Like,
sweet.
we couldn't even like give each other a hug or anything.
I know, but at least you got to like talk to each other face to face. Kind of.
So once I was here, things started getting a little better. One thing I regret is that I didn't know I only had 90 days to get enrolled into like TRICARE Prime and get dental insurance. So if you're newly married in the military, make sure you change that over in 90 days. It kind of worked out. So he came here in May and I arrived in September. Open season for TRICARE, of course, is like mid-November to mid-December. And we were more concerned about like getting furniture for the house and being able to afford to live on Guam than we were about. And I was a healthy 19-year-old. I didn't necessarily need medical attention.
Well, if you've never had to take care of healthcare before, you wouldn't really think. I still don't even think about. I wouldn't have thought about that, like making sure I'm in TRICARE. And Prime.
So it kind of sucked on. I actually needed to, I had gotten a job in like early December, and so when I finally went to, I was trying to like get all my documents for my doctor sent over. I don't even think that ever happened anyway, but, and I was like, what about like, can I enroll in dental insurance? This was like late December, as I was like on the tail end of like getting like my physical done for work and stuff, and they were like, well, actually you had already passed your 90 days and open enrollment just closed, so I couldn't get on to Prime or dental insurance, so I didn't go to the dentist for the whole year, and I was really mad about it that nobody had told me that I only had 90 days.
That's weird. You would think that'd be something like, hey, congratulations, by the way, you have a timeline before.
Yeah, no one told us.
If you want to do that. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know about dental. I just figured you could sign up for dental whenever you needed to.
No, it has to be in that open enrollment or like 90 days between a major life event. So like if you get pregnant or married or other big events like that. So
good to know.
But I think that was like the only thing where I was like, oh man, like this is continuing to be stressful, because it was like months later, like it was like almost 6 months since we'd been married, and I was like, oh man, we got this figured out, everything's good, and
curveball.
Yeah, never mind. You don't get to go to the dentist for the next year. But
you'll be fine.
It all worked out. I had a healthy year, nothing happened.
That's good.
So
thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Okay, so I obviously I know Morgan very well. Tell us about your weddings. Yes, weddings. Everyone, weddings.
Oh yeah,
plural.
So of course, one wedding. I just explained it all in detail. We count that as our wedding. That was when I officially became Morgan Savage. I know I have the coolest last name in the whole world.
Just the best.
So when Malik and I legally got married June 1st, 2020, we count that as wedding number 1. And then it was very, very important to us that we would at least say vows to each other. It felt like we felt so robbed of the experience. I think that like, just send an email and then it's done. Like, that's not fair. Every little girl dreams of their big wedding with a big white dress.
Yeah.
And, so before, that was like my goal. As soon as we got married, I like started planning both weddings. So I started planning a wedding for here on the island, and then I started planning a big wedding for back home. We had our Guam wedding here, so I arrived in September, and it happened on October 12th, 2020. Actually, I think it was our fourth year dating anniversary. Actually,
Aww.
So it was still a special date to us.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really sweet, and we got married on the beach. It was just the two of us and then another airman that Malik knew from the office. Like I wrote a script, like I copied and pasted a script from the internet and printed it out and put it in a binder for him to read. And we did like a sand ceremony with the sand from that beach. So I have sand from like the exact spot still like sitting up on our wall.
That's sweet.
Yeah, and so that wedding was awesome because it was so cheap.
Yeah.
I paid for a photographer and a videographer, and the pictures are just beautiful.
They're so
stunning.
They are.
But Guam is beautiful. So it's, the island did most of the work for us. And so that wedding was just so special that it was so intimate. It was just the two of us, and it was like, it was really like, it was so nice because we'd been married for months at that point legally. So just take a moment and like reflect on like what a marriage really is and like what we really want out of it and how much we really do love each other,
Well, and that's the biggest thing, I think, too, because, like, big weddings with your family are great because it's wonderful to be able to celebrate with your family and your friends, but also, like, it is nice to be able to do something so intimate where it's just, like, the two of you, where you can just be very vulnerable, because I'm not going to lie, when I walk down the aisle and, you're saying the vows and whatever he's telling you to say, and it's just like, oh, everybody's watching me, and it's like so nervous, but like when you're just there, that's so sweet, like together, just the two of you. Well, really and then your little officiant.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is very nice.
And then, so I had like the photographer and videographer lined up before I even left Pennsylvania.
Nice.
I had messaged everyone on Instagram and had it booked, and it was awesome. And then at the same time, like before I even left Pennsylvania in September, I was touring wedding venues with my parents, and I had bought a dress for both the weddings. So our plan was, since because Malachi was in BMT over the past and Christmas of 2019, and then he graduated early 2020, and so the goal was, because he was planning to come home, that spring for leave and wrap before he came to Guam. Of course, that didn't work out. That's why we got married. So we were hoping to be home for like that first Christmas. Also because he missed his family, of course. Yeah. And we were hoping to get married January 2nd of 2021. So like that Christmas season. So I planned this big Christmas wedding from June to September. That whole time I was like planning a wedding. I had florals and bridesmaids and a venue and food everything was figured out. I planned the whole wedding. Unfortunately, and that because that was like early fall, I guess, in Pennsylvania when all that was happening. Like right before I left, everything looked like COVID's slowing down. It looks like we're gonna be okay.
Yep.
Maybe we'll see what happened. And then unfortunately, just a few months later, COVID had picked back up again for like the winter spell, and so we were like, lockdowns are going to happen again. We need to postpone this. So we postponed it to the next July. So we wound up having our first Christmas away from everybody alone. Not the plan, but that was special too, to be home in Guam for the holidays, just the two of us. And then we went
so different.
Then we went back in from mid-June to mid-July in 2021 and had our great big fat family wedding.
Yep.
And the whole time I was like leading up to this, I was like, I don't know, elopements are the way to get, like they're just the way to go. They're so cheap and it was so beautiful, and the pictures are just they're to die for. And then I was walking down the aisle, and like as we were leaving the venue that night, I was like, the family wedding. It was perfect. The whole day went perfectly, and it was just a really wonderful day with our whole families. And Malachi's grandfather actually did the ceremony for us, and so it was just really special that everything was family. And after being away from everyone for so long, it really brought everybody together. And I hear military families complain a lot about how when they go back, people don't travel to see them, but it really made it easy for us because everybody was in one big building ready to celebrate us. So.
When you guys grew up in the same type of area.
Yes,
Not the same towns, but at least.
Yeah, so we're high school sweethearts. We started dating when I was 15. I was just a baby sophomore in high school. And yeah, we didn't go to the same high school, but he lived about 30 minutes away from me, and most of our family's from the area too, so.
Yeah,
it was a pretty big wedding, like 120 people, I think.
Nice.
It was expensive. But I had 2 beautiful dresses.
You live it up.
Yeah. So 3 weddings. People joke about like how we're gonna have a wedding everywhere we go.
Everywhere
different
you go.
duty station, we need to have a wedding just because it seemed like our thing for like
Why not?
over a year. Yeah. So we had been married legally for a year before we had that third wedding.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Aww.
3 weddings, also different, also beautiful. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah,
really. And we celebrate all
really.
3.
Seriously, all different weddings too. Yeah,
Yeah.
all one with full family,
Yeah.
one with just you two, and then one without you guys at all.
Yeah. So if I don't know if someone were to ask me like if I would choose an elopement or a family wedding, I would say both.
It's
I don't know
hard,
how I would
right?
choose because they were both so beautiful and so special.
They both are good, and I mean, it's kind of more up to your preference too.
Yeah.
If you're willing to go out and plan and spend the money and do
Yeah.
it, like the family wedding is where it's at. I mean, it's great because I think of it as it's not about me. I mean, if the day's about me, but I mean, it's about all the family. You get to have all the family together,
Yeah.
celebrating together.
Absolutely.
And I love having the family
Yeah.
together and just having a good time and all that too.
Yeah.
And being in a wedding dress, man, is fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's so fun.
Yeah, I got 2 of them. I think that was the best part of it all. I got 2 wedding dresses.
Yeah, we need to have like a wedding dress party or something
Right.
where we can just go out and wear our dresses.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll fit my dress again, but it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, because even the elopement is good too if you're more kind of like on a budget and wanting
Yeah.
to not spend as
Yeah.
much. You don't care as much about having like a big wedding or
Right.
and even when you do a family wedding, it doesn't have to be huge, extravagant stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, it's like, it's to your preference. And Morgan says go for all 3. If you're going to do proxy, then an
All 3,
intimate, and then a
absolutely.
big one. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, and I think even if it happens, like it was over a year for us before our big family wedding even happened. But just to
Right.
do that and have the time and the picture, like even like the pictures with our family members.
Yeah.
Like,
It's the
you have to-
memories.
yeah. Just do it.
I think about it too because, because Dave and I's marriage is different too. And we got married together, but then we waited a while. It was a year, almost 2 years. Oh God, don't hate me because I can't remember what year that was. I think it was 2. I think it was 2 years before we actually had our full. I don't know anymore. Sorry guys, it's the time. My brain can't think right now. But yeah. So and I saved up and was able to plan a wedding, and it was great because then I got to be with everybody,
Right. Yeah.
and party, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It was a good time. Except they kept taking my drink away. I was so mad. Couldn't even get drunk at my own wedding.
Well, we had a
guys.
dry wedding because I wasn't even old enough to drink yet.
I know. Morgan's baby.
I know. Yeah. So it's been 2 years now since that June 1st, 2020.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. My whole entire life has changed, and the way I view education, like getting my degree, is completely different. That was one of the big things for my father when. Like Malachi called my dad. Like we had already decided we were getting married, so it didn't matter. But he called my dad and was like, "Can I please marry your daughter?" And my parents love Malachi to death. I think they love him more than they love me. But he was like, "Duh, yeah, of course. Okay, now tell me, like, is she gonna be able to go to school? Is she gonna be able to get a job? Like, what is her life gonna look like?" And it was very important to my dad that I finished school. And so actually, we got married in June, so I anticipated moving to Guam much quicker than September.
Yeah.
And so I had dropped out of school at Muhlenberg and enrolled in the University of Maryland Global Campus, which they have like a little branch here. I started their Zoom classes from Pennsylvania. So classes were like at 4 a.m. in Pennsylvania, and I would get up and log on.
Yeah.
So because I was committed to like moving to Guam and like continuing my education. So I was taking Guam classes in Guam time before I even moved to Guam. Like I started in August, I think, and that sucked.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, like I said, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah,
that's how it worked for me. And so I went from being a dance and accounting double major to I dropped my dance major and was just studying accounting at UMGC. And since then, I have transferred to the American Military University, and now I'm studying human development and family studies. So, my life has changed more than just changing my last name from moving to Guam. So yeah, it's been a crazy and exciting and really rewarding 2 years.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, all the things that you have, like, accomplished in the last 2 years, too. It's crazy to think about.
I think about it sometimes. I'm like, there's no way this is real life. Like, it just, like, how does one's life even, like, go like that or work out? Like, who moves 8,000 miles away
if it's
from
for
home?
love.
Yeah, right? Anything for love.
I'm not joking, you guys. Morgan and Malachi are the cutest thing ever, too.
Yeah, he's the best.
Adorable.
Yeah, and I don't think many people would move 8,000 miles, would, like, uproot their whole entire life and change everything about their future for a lot of people, but even especially when you're 18 or 19 years old, you know. Yeah, it was just
that's a big deal. You were so young to make that decision and to feel like it'd be okay with coming out here and not just being like, no, it's fine, I'll wait for you and I'll finish school and blah blah blah. No, you took the initiative and you're like, no, I don't want to be that long, that far away.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to know, and I think it's important to note that not everybody should get married to double proxy and just up and move their life. You know, I think Malachi and I were in a really unique situation where we had been together for a long, even though we were so young, we had been together for so long. I remember being 16 years old, 15 years old, and it was just a few months after we were dating, and I looked to my friends and I was like, I'm gonna marry this man. Like I just knew, and our relationship, like, we both have, like, the same morals and values, and if it had always just been like, he's the person for me, and my mom knew and my dad knew, and I think it's a really interesting point, because when I had started telling people that I got married on the internet, like, you traditionally at 19 years old, people would be like, what the heck are you doing, you're ruining your life, like, but actually that's like, my twin sister was like the only one who reacted that way. Everyone was very supportive and was like all for the idea of me moving to Guam and starting my life so young. And I think a lot of that had to do with how special, well, everybody I was talking to knew Malachi and knew our relationship, and when you know, but, like, it's not something to walk into very lightly, you know.
No, because it's a big commitment.
Right, and because the problem was that if I got here and didn't like it, that was another $1,500 plane ticket, and like you know, it was just it wasn't an option. Like, once I got here, it wasn't an option to leave, and you know, there's beauty in that too. Malak and I have had, you know, I don't want to say nobody else to rely on, because that's not true, but really, you know, it
is the truth, though. Like, honestly, like, that's the biggest thing that I always take from moving overseas is like, I mean, you meet people who have your back and they do anything for you too. They become like your family, but it's always just you and your spouse. Like that. I mean, when we moved to England, it was, you know, I relied on him and he relied on me for most of our time there. And so you just really grow together too. And it either makes you or breaks you. This is what I heard. I heard Guam does that to people, though. It either makes you or breaks you. So it's,
I think it has really made us.
And you really have to be in the right mindset for it too. You can't just go into it already negative or have any kind of like worries or doubts at all.
And I would also say that like family support is really big in a situation like double proxy marriage. We actually have had like a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but like 3 or 4 like friends from high school message us and be like, how did you guys get married? Like, I heard you did this thing online. Like, can you tell me more about it? And like knowing the people, and they're like, most of the time they're like, oh yeah, my mom doesn't think we should get married, but we're gonna do it behind her back. And I'm like, no, there's no, they're like there's no way your marriage will work, because like for Malak and I to be so successful, we really did rely, especially on my mom a lot. And so in so many more ways, we were 8,000 miles away from her, but without the support, the emotional support and the financial support from both of our parents, it just would not have worked. I don't think so. Yeah, that's another big thing I would add to this. Is that, you know, it takes a certain kind of relationship to do this well, and it's not everyone. And everybody who's asked me about it, I have instantly thought, no way. like you should not even be getting married, let alone like online without telling your mom. Yeah. Like it's just not the way to do things. So it worked out in our situation, but in like 9 times out of 10 in other situations, I would be like, this is not this is not what you should do.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys didn't go straight for, let's just do this double proxy by marriage thing. We're just going to do it. No, I mean, you guys took a lot of time and thought, and you had other plans before that didn't work out because, he couldn't take leave, he couldn't come home and all this stuff. And so it was kind of just like, well, what do we do? You know, like what, like...
I would also say there are cheaper and easier ways to get, like, I would say it would probably be easier to, like, fly to the state, wherever your military members at, and probably, like, get married at a courthouse instead of doing double proxy. It'd probably be way cheaper.
Maybe.
In the States,
Who
you
knows?
know, but... And it would be nicer. You could at least be together.
That's true. I know.
But yeah, it's interesting and it's exciting, and it worked for us. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was so crazy. So yeah, when I recorded that episode and did the research, I mean, I didn't do a whole lot of, but I just kind of looked into the double proxy and the proxy by marriage thing, and I just was like, this is crazy. Yeah. Like. It's really nice that we have that option, though, right. If you're in a situation where there's just no way either one of you or both of you can't be there. So it's really,
absolutely.
It's really cool. And so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it was a long story and there's a lot of complicated parts, but
not at all. You get three wedding anniversaries now.
Yeah, it was good. Commissary cake for the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, life is good, and I'm really, really thankful that it was an option for us. Because I don't know what would have happened if it didn't work out the way it did. But life has a way of working out in all situations, no matter what. So
it does. It deals you some interesting cards, but it's all kind of what you make of it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you look at it like, oh well. You could have just totally went the opposite direction, been like, this is never going to work. We're just keep getting dealt these cards, and it's just not possible. Yeah. And but instead, you guys kind of just worked together and figured out what worked, what would have been best.
Yeah, and it's really funny because he would have left the island by now. At the state, he would have left like months ago. So because he was originally on a 2-year tour here as an airman, but it got extended to 3 when we got married, and so. It's like over the past few months, it's been interesting to like reflect
You're
on like where what would have happened if we never got married. I would be starting my senior year of school in the fall. And who knows? He would be somewhere else. At his next duty station.
Yeah.
And I think it probably would we probably would have been able to pull off a long distance relationship, but I'm really thankful that we didn't choose that option. I think.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, such a good story.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It is wild, and it's such a fun story that when you have children, that you can just tell them all the crazy things.
Right?
You can be like, Mom, what? You have 3 weddings? Yeah. Like, what?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Mm-hmm. Like, first of all, I got emailed to let me know that I was married, so...
Congratulations.
And then, who knows, by that time, our kids are going to be like, what's an email? Right? It's like
that's so funny.
We're gonna be at that point now. We're like, what's an email? Oh God, funny. I hope we don't ever get there. Scary. But awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Morgan.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, see,
I really told you. Enjoy talking about this.
Okay, I told you it got easier. Once you just start talking, it gets easier. Yeah. We were both, I'm gonna let you know, we were both, like, nervous. It's been a while since I've recorded. Obviously, you guys know we took quite a break. It was for me. It was my fault. But, we were both kind of like, oh, God, it's gonna be, like, I haven't talked in a while. It's been weird.
Yeah, there's always like certain bits I miss throughout the story, and I have told it so many. Like, this is like my most told story I think that I've ever stated.
It's a good story.
It is a good story. But I'm sure there's bits and pieces that I've missed. But that was a good chunk of it. So,
yeah. Well, and I think it's going to be helpful too. So if anybody is interested in like
absolutely
the proxy by marriage too, whether it's single or double, at least they have information from somebody who's done it and gone through it.
Yeah, I've actually done it, and it's legit. It's actually legal.
Which is
the military honors it, which was all we were worried about. So
yeah, that's crazy, but awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. Oh wow, that totally freaked me out. I mean, right on. See, now you know that song, right? We made Morgan watch Bring It On because she's never watched it before.
They're all gonna hate me.
I know. Next is Mean Girls. You have to watch Mean Girls.
Okay.
It's super silly, like Bring It On, but really funny, and you have to know because it's all this,
Jen.
all the things you can't sit with us.
Okay. If you force me to watch it, I'll watch it.
I'll force you. Gonna force her. Yeah, so thank you all for listening. Don't forget to rate and subscribe on your listening platforms, wherever you're listening from, because we really appreciate it. I will have one other episode as an interview, probably like the following week after this comes out, which is another really interesting one, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, once Veronica gets back, we'll kind of update you on all of our life and what's happening and things like that. I know you really miss our jibber jabber, because this is what we do best. We just go off all the time. And our true crime, of course, I know. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just go ahead and email me at dependisplaining@gmail.com. Find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I guess. I don't really use it because, guys, I'm old. I don't understand Twitter. I don't get it. But we still have that. Yeah, that's like about it. Yeah, so double proxy by marriage, something that you can consider if that's really something that, hey, you've exhausted all options and that's what you need to do. There you go, because wherever you go, there you are.